the healthiest diet I consider a Nutritarian diet because it's a vegetable-based diet. It's not just plant-based. It's not fruit-based. It's not rice-based. It's not potato-based. It's vegetable-based, but we also eat lots of fruits and beans and seeds and nuts, as opposed to eating lots of dairy and meat on a conventional diet. Right? So it's mostly vegetables, and we're not using oil, and we're reducing or eliminating animal products. Better to not to have them if possible, because obviously, especially animal products today, and we talked about, right? We even talked about in my other lecture, the toxic plastics and other dangerous compounds that are found in seafood today, making seafood a polluted and toxic food that with the potential for neurologic damage into your brain. And that we really are better off on today, especially today, for the environment and for our own personal health protection, by eating a diet that's 100% plant-based, not 90% plant-based. So I want to make sure that's clear. And we have to repeat the correct habits over and over again. So the type of diet I eat, the type of diet we serve here at the retreat, let me review this, the skeleton of this, so you understand it, because it's very helpful if you can keep repeating this over and over again, the same way of eating day to day, because it becomes like muscle memory. It becomes like the way you prefer to eat if you keep eating this way. And it becomes simple if you just know what to do and eat the same way and eat continually each day. So breakfast is usually a cup of fruit, mostly berries, low sugar fruits, but at least like a cup of fruit, with usually, depending on a person, like a third of a cup to a half a cup of grain. And we don't use rice or brown rice because of the arsenic component. The grain we're using are oats or steel-cut oats or amaranth or teff or kamut or quinoa. Quinoa is my favorite because it's so high in protein, but quinoa and amaranth are really great because they're high protein whole grains cooked in water. They're water-based grains, not dry cooked cereals, not cereals out of boxes, not things that have been pre-cooked or puffed or shot out of cannons or treated by leprechauns. It's the whole grain that's soaked in water. So it's a water-based cooking method. So the thing is not browned and puffed and flavored or seasoned. It's just plain grain cooked in water with our seeds that have such powerful anti-cancer effects, with 1 to 2 tablespoons of ground seeds. So a person looking to lose weight could have a tablespoon of ground seeds. I usually mix flax seeds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds. And for myself, who's not lose weight, I'll use usually 3 tablespoons or at least 2 tablespoons. So I'll maybe have a tablespoon of flax seed and a tablespoon of chia seed and a tablespoon of hemp seed in my fruit and grain. So I could adjust that amount of food or amount of fruit or amount of grain if you have more caloric need or not. But mostly we're keeping the calories to about 400 to 500 calories per meal. And we're keeping the nut or seed intake in a person that's trying to lose weight to about a half an ounce with each meal for a total of 1.5 ounces a day. Whereas myself, who's not trying to lose weight, was more like an ounce with each meal for like a total of 3 ounces of nuts and seeds a day. And I'm making that very clear that the exclusion of most of the fat and trying to hold your fat down to a very low fat diet by excluding nuts makes it harder to lose weight. You're less satiated. You feel like snacking between meals, and you're less satisfied, and it lowers the protein bioavailability of the diet. By having a little beans with lunch and dinner, and having a little nuts and seeds with lunch and dinner, having the beans and the nuts, it makes you feel like you don't need to eat between meals, and you don't need to snack again at bedtime. You feel satisfied. And the studies show that the utilization of small amounts of nuts and seeds with the meal, we're talking about half an ounce to an ounce, compared to an equal amount of carbohydrate calories, leads to more weight loss and more sustaining the less desire to overeat calories. Furthermore, I'll add this because I've heard other people, maybe some other people might have said something on lectures you've heard. I want to make this absolutely clear that a person with advanced heart disease restricting all nuts and seeds has an increased risk of cardiac arrhythmia and death compared to reversing disease with a small amount of nuts and seeds at each meal. And I've had tens of thousands of patient case histories and hundreds of people with heart disease, and I show in the studies that I've published, including a recent paper published in the International Journal of Disease Prevention and Reversal with more than 50 scientific references why taking all the nuts and seeds out of a diet is more dangerous for heart patients, putting them at increased risk of arrhythmia. And I've had just as many successful cases and descriptions of people, and I published those on the web, in the scientific literature as well, as have 500 cases on my website of people with very advanced heart disease and very severe heart disease who reverse their heart disease without trying to eliminate all nuts and seeds. And I've even convinced Dr. Ornish and influenced, I think, him in a way to no longer require people reduce all nuts and seeds trying to reverse heart disease, because we see results that are better, more sustainable, and less chance of cardiac arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation. And because we talked about the myocytes, that the lack of fat could interfere with ion channel transport and increase the irritability or susceptibility of the heart for cardiac arrhythmia, why in the Physician's Health Study, consumption of nuts and seeds showed people had the consumption of nuts and seeds had such a high rate of preventing sudden cardiac death and cardiac arrhythmias and seizures. So going to an extremely low-fat diet is never advisable, never. There's no case when taking all the fat out of a diet is advisable, and reducing nuts and seeds all the way does not make your cholesterol go down more either. So that's information that's not supported by the overwhelming amount of science that we have available today. And if you want to review those 50 studies, you can go to the international, you can go look up that study that with my name on it, with my name and Dr. Ferrari, or the PhD researcher who published a study last year in the International Journal of Disease Prevention and Reversal on the benefits of nuts and seeds for reversing cardiovascular disease. So we don't have to worry about that. Nuts and seeds are protective against heart disease, and in these moderate amounts, they cause more weight loss and accelerate reversal of heart disease. They don't slow it down. So lunch is a large salad with raw vegetables, and by having a dressing with nuts and seeds in it, and don't forget we're doing a half an ounce approximately of mixed in with a dressing. Maybe it's an orange with some sesame seeds and cashews, with some blood orange vinegar. Maybe it's tomato sauce with some almonds and roasted garlic and black fig vinegar. Maybe it's a walnut balsamic. Maybe it's a tofu cashew Caesar. Maybe it's, but we're using nuts and seeds, and the utilization of nuts and seeds with the raw vegetables enables us to absorb 20 to 50 times as much of the anti-cancer nutrients from the food. By excluding the fat, you're not absorbing all the nutrients. And that may be one of the main reasons why people utilizing nuts and seeds have such a giant reduction of both cardiovascular mortality and cancer mortality. In other words, all-cause mortality. And this has been seen in one study that corroborates another study that corroborates another study. All these studies corroborate each other, and they all show the same thing: dramatic reduction of all-cause mortality. And this is in every cohort of people who are flexitarians, vegans, non-vegans, that the utilization of nuts and seeds in small amounts has beneficial effects. So don't be confused about this. There is no confusion in the scientific literature. You have people being confused by personalities and by information, but not in the scientific literature. You have an overwhelming amount of evidence that you don't need to restrict these healthy foods. And you want to maximize health and maximize weight loss. And it's like anything you do to prevent cancer is good for a person with cancer. What you do to prevent heart disease is good for a person with heart disease. Not one diet person with heart disease, another diet person to prevent heart disease. It just doesn't even make sense. It's the same diet to prevent heart disease that you give a person who has heart disease. Same diet to prevent cancer you give a person who has cancer. The healthiest diet is the healthiest diet. There's no manipulation. It's really that the scientific literature is not confusing, and we don't have to make it too confusing here. And now dinner is we have some raw vegetables again, maybe different raw vegetables than we had with lunch, right? We have here, maybe it's some peppers and bok choy stems, or celery, or okra, or raw okra. Or maybe it's raw snow pea pods with a dip. Maybe it's an avocado dip, or a salsa dip, or a hummus dip, or something. And then we have some cooked vegetables, like cooked green vegetables with mushrooms and onions. We want to get both raw vegetables and cooked vegetables, and we want to have greens and beans and some nuts and seeds. So we had some fat in that dip, or some in the hummus dip or something. And then we have mushroom and some beans. We want to have some beans in that vegetable bean soup at lunch. We want to have some bean with our dinner, but we could have a small amount of another starch like spaghetti squash or butter or winter squash, or a small amount of grain or something with that. And then dessert. And we want to have some dessert. And that's pretty much this diet. It's pretty easy to follow the diet. Salad, soup, and fruit for lunch, raw vegetables with a dip, and a cooked vegetable wok or a cooked vegetable dish with some beans mixed in, or beans on the side, or a salsa or a bean dish on the side, or a bean burger or something like that, with a small amount of cooked starch. But mostly your starch, your most favorite starch is beans, because it has the lowest glycemic load and best protein bioavailability. And it's slowly digested carbohydrates with low glycemic load, which keeps us satiated. We have the beans and the greens and the nuts. We're satisfied with a lower amount of calories. And how much calories should you consume? Should this be 1,200 calories? Should this be 1,600 calories? Well, you have to determine that. You determine that by you feel satisfied but not full. And then you're eating the right amount of calories because you're losing weight by at least 2 pounds a week, moving to your ideal weight. And if you're not losing weight, then you may have to adjust your calories downward. You may be overeating calories. Maybe you're eating past fullness or not so satisfying. So we'll discuss. So what I'm saying here, that if you're not losing weight adequately, you may need to eat larger portions of low-calorie food and smaller portions of higher calorie food, right? So you may have to cut back on the starch component, but you're not cutting back really on nuts because you're not snacking on nuts between meals. You're only eating a half an ounce with each meal if you're overweight. And the reason why you're eating a half an ounce with each meal, and not an ounce with each meal, and not a quarter of an ounce with each meal, you're picking a half an ounce with each meal, is because we have studies on this. For example, Seventh-day Adventist Health Study 2, which is a very important and significant study to understand and to review. It's so important because they found that people with the lowest quintile of nut and seed consumption had a 40% increase of cardiovascular death compared to people with the highest quintile of nut and seed consumption. So the question is, what's the lowest quintile and what's the highest quintile? And the lowest quintile was people eating less than half an ounce a day, and the highest quintile was people eating more than an ounce and a half a day. So the ounce and a half a day is picked because of the tremendous reduction of cardiovascular death we see in scientific studies from people eating an ounce and a half a day, or about half an ounce with each meal. We're not eating an ounce with each meal because a person is overweight, and we want to keep that calorie count in that range to losing about 2 pounds a week. And why do we pick 2 pounds a week? Well, we're picking 2 pounds a week, the same reason. Because when you're losing 2 pounds a week, we see the inflammation goes down, we see the estrogen levels go down, we see the insulin levels, the production goes down, we see the inflammation go down, and we see all these parameters get into the normal range, and we see platelets begin, and the propensity for the inflammation is markedly decreased, and we see these markers of risk go down, and when you gain weight or you don't lose weight, then you see them go higher, stay up. So we're adjusting the calories to maintain the weight loss, to be steady, and then as we approach our ideal weight, the weight loss slows down a little bit and then stabilizes. And so we can modulate those calories and make you feel satisfied with the food you're eating by eating more lower calorie food, right? So you can do this. You can modulate this. You can adjust this to your needs. Because frankly, some women need 1,200 calories, some women need 1,400 calories, some men need 600 calories. So we need, and you want to eat what instinctually feels normal to you, but you still want to make those adjustments in overall, so you're losing weight adequately. We don't want to just say every person, don't think about calories and don't think about, just eat as much as you want. You're going to lose weight anyway. Well, that works for a lot of people, but not everybody. We want to make sure that this works for you, and you can make modifications to it to make sure you're successful. So eat more eggplant, more mushrooms, more cauliflower, more tomatoes, onions, artichokes. Artichokes are fantastic. Zucchini, asparagus, broccoli, spaghetti squash, low in calories, citrus, melon, berries, bigger salads. You eat these foods that all have less than 100 calories a pound. You eat these foods with low caloric density, so you still feel you're feeling satisfied without having to eat too much food, right? And when you have a little dessert, a little whipped frozen banana, or a little bit of berries or frozen mango or the frosted cherries or something at dinner time, it makes you stop eating for the day. It marks the end of eating for the day. By 6 o'clock, you want to end eating for the day. Clean the kitchen, shut down the restaurant, clean your teeth, and go pursue other things that make you feel good that are not related to food, right? Camaraderie, non-food activity, watch a movie, go for a hike, listen to music, go dancing, play cards, tell jokes, meet with people and have conversations. Get away from food and don't let your social life revolve around food. So I'm finishing this up here and making sure you know that it's okay to feel abnormal the first week or so when you're moving to such a healthy diet. We're trying not to snack because we want to live in the catabolic phase. When you eat a healthy diet, like I'm discussing, you're not going to be hungry. So you're not going to want to snack. 3 meals a day is sufficient for almost everybody. And some people do better on 2 meals a day. Maybe a professional athlete or some person requiring more calories, needing to gain weight, or trying to build muscle may require 4 meals, but mostly 3 meals a day works for most people. So once you're a brown belt and you feel true hunger, it gets easier. Once you get a black belt and you're doing this for a long time, then you enjoy it more. Your consistent behavior makes you lose your desire and attraction for unhealthy substances. You start to like and prefer eating healthfully. You feel the best eating healthfully, and you're no longer missing those foods that you thought you couldn't live without.